Hi, Dan.
Hey, Katie, it's great to see you.
Yeah, it's so great to see you too. And thank you so much for joining me today to talk a little bit about more about these topics that we covered in the June edition of the Dan Schnur Political Report. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. As you often remind me, we never have time in that 1 hour to get to all of the group's questions. So I'm really glad we can cover a few more of them today, especially given all the presidential campaign news that we're about to navigate.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the timing is great for us to be having this conversation. So the first question I want to ask you today is, what do you anticipate in the first presidential debate?
Yeah, the timing for that question is perfect, Katie, because the country at this point is watching to see what a Trump Biden debate will be like. What's unique about this is not the debates happening. There have been presidential debates every 4 years since 1976. But what's really different about this is the timing. Normally, the presidential debates take place in the last couple months before an election, between Labor Day and Election Day, at a time when it's believed that most voters, the largest number of voters, will be watching. The fact that we're preparing for a debate in late June is really remarkable. And the driving force behind that, although both candidates are very eager to debate, the driving force behind this, without any doubt, is Biden and his campaign. While the polls are very close, Trump has had a small but persistent lead over the last several months. And particularly in the swing states that will decide this election, Biden, at least right now, has a very narrow path to victory. So Biden's campaign team believes that they need to do something to change the dynamic of this race. And they believe that by pushing for an early debate, that could accelerate the process. Now, Trump and his team are supremely confident. They very regularly mock Biden's age and his cognitive abilities. And so they believe an early debate works toward their benefit. But this wouldn't be happening if the Biden people hadn't pushed for it. They've been saying all year long that as voters begin to come to terms with the fact that there is a binary choice in front of them between Biden and Trump, that works to their benefit. And so their hope is that by having the two men on a debate stage together on this early date, it does begin to reframe the race in the minds of swing voters in a way that works for their benefit. It's fairly rare that both campaigns, that both candidates are this eager to debate. Usually the campaign that's behind really badly wants to, and the campaign that's ahead doesn't. But it is a close race. Both sides are very disdainful of their opponent. And so we're in this unique situation where both sides think this works to their benefit. We'll obviously find out after that 90 minutes in Atlanta which one of them was right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And now let's talk about one of the candidates who won't be at the debate, Kennedy. What, if anything, do young voters think of Kennedy?
Well, it's been fascinating watching Robert Kennedy's campaign for president from the beginning, because at the very beginning, the most notable thing about his candidacy in the minds of most voters was his surname. And for Democrats of a certain age and generation, the name Kennedy, both his father, Robert Kennedy Sr., and his uncle, JFK, the former president, the name Kennedy almost brings, I don't want to overstate it, but almost brings a degree of political magic to many Democrats of a certain age and older. And as Kennedy has begun to campaign, in addition to his surname, what we've seen is he's become a vessel for a lot of very disaffected voters, voters who are unhappy with both candidates. And so it's really propelled him forward is not the Kennedy legacy, which was presumed at the outset, but the remarkable level of discontent that many voters have with the two major party candidates. So young voters, Gen Zers, who are the least likely to have strong memories of John F. Kennedy and of Robert Kennedy have been unusual in their enthusiastic support for this Kennedy, not because of his name, but simply because he represents something different than Biden and Trump do. We've seen in recent weeks, Kennedy has begun to struggle a little bit. He's been having some problems with his fundraising. Not getting on the debate stage is a big blow for him. But for a candidate who's relying on a Democratic name, most usually associated with the 1960s, the fact that he does draw so much support from young people is something that's very telling, particularly when we think about the reasons, the motivations for the support he draws.
Okay. And for our last question of the day, isn't it disturbing that if the media is correct, a majority of the electorate hold the opinion that the election is still a choice between the lesser evil?
Well, that's a perfect segue from our question about Kennedy, because as we talked about a moment ago, I don't think Robert Kennedy's candidacy would exist, at least not at a serious level, if it were not for that discontent. The questioner, our audience member, asks a really smart question, but I won't question the premise. I'll adjust it a bit. Because it's not just the media that sees a level of dissatisfaction with so many voters toward the two major party candidates, but rather public opinion polling from across the board, from media sources, from academic sources, and from plenty of other, see the same thing. There's a dynamic that's emerged in American politics over the last few elections. It's a phenomena that the political scientists call double haters. And these are voters who don't like either candidate at all, and as the question suggested, ultimately hold their nose and vote for the lesser of two evils. In 2016, the double haters wanted change, and they voted for Trump. In 2020, those double haters, a somewhat smaller number than in 2016, there were fewer double haters in the Biden-Trump race than there had been in the campaign between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. But the double haters in 2020 opted for Trump because they felt the risk of oversimplification, that the change they voted for 4 years earlier had been more dramatic than they'd anticipated. In this election, the percentage of double haters is at an all-time high. We are seeing roughly a quarter of the electorate that says that they do not care for either candidate. And right now, the split between Trump and Biden is fairly close. But going back to what we talked about earlier, a lot of those double haters, not surprising, they're for Robert Kennedy. And it's fairly clear that if Kennedy were not in the race, a much larger number of those double haters would be supporting Biden. So neither Trump or Biden wanted Kennedy on the debate stage. They're both relieved that he's not there. But Kennedy's absence on Thursday night from the debate may play to Biden's benefit much more than Trump's.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you so much again, Dan, for answering these questions. And, I'm already looking forward to our July edition of the Dan Schnur Political Report.
Yeah, in July, we'll talk about the Republican convention. In August, we'll talk about the Democratic convention.
Yeah.
In September, we'll have the second and in all likelihood final presidential debate. We got a lot ahead of us, huh?
Yeah, so much coming. So everyone stay tuned.
Absolutely. See you all soon. Thanks as always for watching.